Welcome back to Walk-Ins Welcome, and we have a super cool guest on today. This is actually Lou Ellen. She is part of the, not just part, she runs the UCA, the Urgent Care Association. We feel extremely honored to have her on here because we just went to the event and everything, and it was amazing. Great episode just before this to go check it out. But Nick, tell me about Lou Ellen.
I'm excited to welcome Lou Ellen Horwitz to our podcast, Walk-Ins Welcome. She's been in and around the urgent care business since 2006. Now, she doesn't look like she's been in and around the urgent care since 2006. So I want to encourage you to go to the YouTube channel. It's always more fun there anyway. But Lou Ellen has not only been voted onto the board of the Urgent Care Association, she is now the CEO for the second time, which means she did a great job, stepped away, and then they said, hey, please come back because we need you back. That's pretty awesome. So she's worked in hospitals, she's worked in urgent cares, primary cares, but Lou Ellen, you told us this is what you love to do. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's the best.
We are glad to have you. Welcome to the podcast. Say hello to the Walk-Ins Welcome community. And I got a question for you. Name one thing that the Urgent Care Association that people think is true about it, but it's not.
And hi, everybody. I think the thing I hear most often is that people think we're a lot bigger than we actually are from a staff standpoint.
Okay.
It's like, what? No, there's not a department for that. It's like a person or just us together. So yeah, that's what I hear most often is, you don't have a huge office in DC somewhere? Nope. No, so, we do. Our team is amazing and does a lot and makes us look a lot bigger than we are. But we are not unlike urgent care, small but mighty.
I love that. It's
and we felt it at the conference too.
Absolutely. I was going to say my favorite thing is big enough to serve you, small enough to know you.
And care. And
care. Love that. Yeah.
Well, I fall into the camp of I thought y'all were way bigger for a couple of reasons. I don't think there's anything else out there like what you do. I don't know.
Not really.
Associations, maybe some chapters, but not really like the main, the grand poopah, if you will.
Yeah, and then all the urgent cares that we've talked to, they all say, they proudly say they're members of the UCA.
Nice.
So, and they make sure that we put your badge on their website.
Do you have to put your badge on the website? We got to get it and everything.
Yeah. Love it. Well, yeah, especially if they're accredited. Yeah.
So that's something we're going to dig into then.
Okay, excellent.
The accreditation process through the UCA. That's on my agenda. But before that, tell us, how in the world did you get into this?
Gosh, it's one of those things that somebody who knows somebody.
Yeah.
I was a creative writing major in college, which leads right to urgent care.
Every single time.
Then I was in a hospital when I first got out of college doing PR, and then ended up in a physician association in Tampa. And while I was there, eventually a woman who worked for me went to church with somebody who worked for the Urgent Care Association that sort of spawned UCA. Long urgent care drama story, not for today, but and they were looking for a brand new, it was a brand new group, and they were looking for an executive director. And she said, "Hey, I work for somebody who might do that." And so, one thing led to another, and took the interview and got the job, and love it.
Got it twice.
Yeah, got it again. Yeah, COVID does strange things. So,
it's the Disney effect, Lou Ellen. They had this CEO that did a great job with the company, and then I don't even know what happened to the other CEO, but they're like, "Yeah, you got to go.
Come on back.
Come on back." Hey,
ours was not like that. It was a retirement thing, and COVID, and all of these things converged, and they said, can you come back?" And yeah, I'd love to. So.
I'm gonna let I'll go down the rabbit hole of questions. Why don't you start with us?
No, so I kind of want to look big picture in terms of, because we know a lot of our audience are urgent care owners or just generally in the medical practice. So it's a two-part question, but the first part is, what's the biggest trend right now in the urgent care industry, and what is the trend you think is coming down the pipeline that they need to know about?
Yeah, I think that a lot of the trends that we're seeing are not new. Probably the one that continues to be the most dramatic is the mergers and acquisitions stuff.
We
going on.
see that.
Tell me.
We've lost clients because of that.
Yeah, it continues to be significant, and I think it's just going to continue. Both larger players buying medium-sized or smaller groups, or health systems continue to be. I know you guys talked about this on your last episode a little bit. Continue to be very active in the urgent care space. So I think that's the one that people feel the most. I mean, we still have the same old of getting paid fairly for, the full scope of services that we offer. That's been a challenge since day one. And we have the same challenges that all of healthcare and most of the country has just around workforce right now. That's the thing that's really top of mind for everybody is staffing, which impacts people's ability to grow. So it's kind of a tricky time right now of ready to grow. Need is still out there. Who's going to work here? So yeah, it's a tough balance, and I'm sure you guys hear it from your customers as well.
Let's dig into that staffing real quick, because I'm just fascinated by that. We hear about it from the standpoint of they're trying to attract people or get people to stay, and they're leaving this urgent care to go to another urgent care because of $1, something like that.
Yeah.
What do you think that shortage is caused by?
Well, there was a shortage before COVID.
There was already a shortage.
Yeah. And I think where it really goes all the way back to is that as urgent care was successful, the shortage really started around medical assistants. And as urgent care was successful in using them, other parts of the healthcare system started saying, medical assistants, that looks cool. Way less expensive than nurses. Do we really need a full nurse to do what, this particular role is? And so they all jumped on the medical assistant bandwagon, and the schools can't keep up.
Right.
Yeah.
And because the schools have not grown at all and don't seem super motivated to grow. So there's, we see people training their own people from scratch and creating their own universities and all these kind of things. Oh, wow. And so I think that is really part of it, is that people see. And that's true across a lot of what we do, from, patient engagement platforms and marketing and all, just the way that we pick our locations. They see how successful urgent care has been and how the communities respond, and what are they doing that we can do? And then it's like, those were our people. And especially if you're a giant, health system, you can absorb an extra $1 an hour, where a independent operator can't just continue to go up and up and up to outbid their competitors. And so it's tough.
What
the other thing I'll say, I guess, is,
go ahead.
I was going to say, the only other thing I'll say is that I think people learn that urgent care is not for everyone. It's a very dynamic, exciting day. You never know what's going to walk in the door. And so you really have to have a certain personality that's friendly and engaging out of the gate, because these people don't generally know you, because they're, if they're first timers. And that goes for the physicians and PAs and nurse practitioners that work as well. You have to have a really broad knowledge of things, and you don't have this, huge building full of diagnostic equipment. So you have to be really good. And so it's an interesting challenge, and medical assistants have to really be able to kind of practice at the top of their quote unquote license. And so I think it looks really exciting from the outside, and you only work 3 days a week because it's 3/12. And then all of a sudden it's like, wow, that was a full day. And so, there is a fair amount of turnover there. So I think we can do a better job of letting people know what it's like to really work there. But I think it's those things.
There was a common theme that we saw at the conference of a lot of people that ran emergency rooms, and then we're going to kick up, because the urgent care took from the emergency room, right? Some of the patients where now they have another option.
As it should have.
Yeah, right.
Agreed.
And they're all in the general consensus. Holy wow, this urgent care is not what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a toned down ER.
Exactly. Walk in the park, piece of cake.
We can handle this.
Mm-hmm. It's been entertaining to watch the ERs get into the space, and they're train wrecking it.
Well, and it's funny because a lot of them are the ones who started it in the first place, back when urgent care was born. It was either a primary care or an emergency doc starting it up. But I think maybe that's the assumptions about the industry that people think are true that are not. But it's easy. It's not.
It's fascinating to me because it's like you said, the urgent care is, hey, we have this other need because we don't service these people in the emergency room. It's kind of cutting into the people who need emergency care. Yeah. Let's start this. They called it the wrong word is what they did. Urgent care wasn't.
If only you'd been around.
I know. That's the wrong word. Maybe immediate care. Quick care,
walk-in care,
anything but urgent. That sense of urgency is built in.
I do remember that when I was younger, I saw it because if we're here in Birmingham, American Family Care was born out of Birmingham. Actually,
Great group.
DB Irwin recently passed.
I heard about that.
know.
That is very sad.
And I actually
One of
went
the founders of the
right.
everything.
I've met him
Mhm.
before. I had my master's with his
Great guy.
grandson, DB Irwin the third or whatever. Anyway, and I remember that when I started seeing urgent cares, and I was like, how does an urgent care close at 8:00?
Yeah.
Well, it's not very urgent to me.
This is the difference between emergent and urgent.
Right?
Hey,
Yeah.
but the consumer can't connect those dots.
Yeah.
I mean, they're getting there now
They
because
can
of the
now.
education
Yeah.
and all that.
Yeah. But it's taken a long time. Agreed.
But the great separator there is the customer service, the patient care and the patient experience, because it's retail healthcare.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
not it's not
Yeah.
primary care where you're going to be a month and a half out. It is, what experience are you creating from the click to the need to the delivery to the follow-up to the ongoing.
Yeah.
All of that is now
And emergency rooms don't have to worry about that because most of their people,
built in.
I won't say they're unconscious, but the service experience is not top of mind unless,
They
they
just wanna
probably
live.
shouldn't be there in the first place. Yeah. So you don't have to be friendly to me. You don't have to
That's
worry
right.
about your NPS score. That's right. Please just
That's right.
get me off this table.
That's right.
So,
That's right. Oh man.
but yeah, and that's a big shift if that's where you come from.
Right. But see, doctors aren't thinking that way.
Right.
And it's been my experience. And actually, I would love to ask you this question. Everywhere we go that we're working with our clients that are urgent care owners, they have to be a doctor to own it. Is that a nationwide thing? Is that state by state?
It's not. It's state by state. That is a
Okay.
thing called the Corporate Practice of Medicine Doctrine.
Okay.
And it's probably in about 10 states still.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
This
Yeah.
is the ones we work in, I guess.
Yeah, I'm about to say we just get hit a lot with it, especially like New
Yeah.
Jersey.
Yeah. New Jersey
Southeast
was
is
one.
still pretty much there. So
Okay.
If that's kind of-
I guess that's what it is.
Maybe.
But I just found that kind of fascinating. So that's not the case anymore anyway. Like, you can be an entrepreneur and you can hire a doctor and you can run an urgent care now. So
yeah, as long as they have a certain kind of relationship that fulfills that regulation. Yep.
correct. Okay.
Yeah.
I got you. So I want to talk a little bit and just pick your brain on where we were, COVID, where it's going. All right. So we talked a little bit about how the emergency rooms, they started up this service. We went into the healthcare space, urgent cares, right? That should be called immediate cares or family cares or something, right? And then COVID hit. And it kind of changed everything. You had this built-in demand, and you know this more than anybody, that urgent cares popped up everywhere, right?
Yeah. You know what? I don't think that's true.
Okay, great. Pop
I
that
think
bubble. I love it.
that people finally figured out that we were there.
There
because
you
we
go.
were the only people besides the emergency room that were still open.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that is to me, the hero story of COVID for the whole country. If we had not stayed open, it would have been catastrophic. Catastrophic. We had most urgent cares, got to 70, 100 patients a day, which is unheard of.
Right.
Where were those people going to go if they didn't come to us? Because all of the regular doctor's offices closed. And so I'm just still in awe of, not surprised because I know our people, but of them saying as soon as they could open their doors again, and the lockdown was over, okay, we're going to figure this out because this is what we do. Walk-in care is what we do. And so you got to be able to walk in here. We don't know what we're going to do with you because there's no treatment and no tests. And even when there got to be tests, we couldn't get them.
Right.
And
Well,
so I
we
think
were
that was a big
backburnered.
that was a big wake up call for UCA and the industry of, we have to get a lot noisier to say, hey, we're over here and this is what we do. And you cannot leave us out of emergency preparedness anymore because clearly we are crucial.
Right.
That would have been 100 more patients a day. And, if you multiply that times 5 urgent cares for every ER, I'm making that number up, but the system was overwhelmed already.
Right.
I can't imagine what would have happened.
No, it was during COVID that we fell in love with urgent care space.
Yeah. Yeah.
I even remember. So we one of our very first urgent cares we work with. They're still a client today. It's a pediatric urgent care, and because we had that relationship, even though they were pediatric, if there was a potential COVID, hey, go down to the pediatric. They'll do a COVID
Because they're
test for you.
open. Yeah.
because they're open, and they'll take an appointment real quick and make it happen. And like multiple of our employees had to do that, and it was just the standard.
We were all going to Vestavia, which
Yeah.
is close to us over your kids. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, my family's from Alabama. I know right where
Okay.
Vestavia is.
So you know exactly. Yeah. So you know
What part of Alabama?
Birmingham and Tuscaloosa.
Okay. Yeah.
That's where we are.
Yeah. That's where
Yeah.
Fancy that.
What's your favorite barbecue place?
Oh, I'm not naming that.
She's trying to get people to join the UCA.
You're not
cause controversy.
I'm not alienating half your state.
There you go. Saul's barbecue is one of my favorites. Saul's good. Anyway, but,
Saul's, we're all going to be in the emergency.
yeah, exactly.
It's so good though.
Good way to go.
But here's what's happened. That built-in guaranteed demand has now essentially, I'll say in the South, I can't guarantee that for everybody, but it's gone away. It's gone away. And what these urgent cares, we work with a lot of urgent cares that are new urgent cares. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
They're new to the space. And their expectation is thousands of inquiries all the time, right? But the reality has changed, right? So how are you in the Urgent Care Association addressing these changes? That, you know, the UCA conference was all about change.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, we've gone back to normal.
Yeah.
This is normal.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, this is what urgent care normally is. And so I think people who only saw it from the lens of what happened during COVID, yeah, that's not normal. But it's funny, even because it went on so long, even people who've been in the industry forever, now it feels like the sky is falling, even though we're right back where we were. Right. And so, you know, it's not as if, and it's been a hard shift for people to make. And I think particularly for, as you say, new owners, investors that got into the space at the time or you know, right before and got super excited. And it's like, what's happened? Nothing's happened. COVID's over. This is just back to normal business operations. So I think part of it is psychological, that we're having to say, okay, we've been waiting for the new normal. This is it. The new normal is a lot like the old normal.
Is normal.
Yeah. And so it comes back to the same things that it was for before: delivering that great customer experience, having that great quality, being a great employer so that people want to work there and you're not dealing with high turnover, you know, and getting your operations dialed back in again. Because I think that is something that was very, very difficult I know it was impossible for people to keep on top of everything the way that they did it pre-COVID, because you just couldn't. You're overwhelmed with 100 patients days in a space as big as ours is. You know, your inventory is not perfectly dialed in and all those things that you really used to be on top of. And so I think that there's a lot of that going on, of sort of redialing in all of their operations to get things humming again at full scope of service. But also making sure that they are delivering that full scope of service that they can, because that was one of the things that we were kind of afraid of underneath, is we don't want to turn into just where you go with a cough and a cold and upper respiratory and COVID testing. We can do so much more. And so to make sure that all the new people who know about urgent care are, you know, we can do a lot more. If you twist your ankle or get a big cut or all of those kinds of things, or get hurt at work, we do all of that too. You don't need to be going to the emergency room for that. You shouldn't be. So I think a lot of it's kind of re-education internally in our own brains, as well as with the patients that now have come to us, of helping them understand what we really do. So
well,
those kinds
I have to
of
be
things.
honest, we didn't know what the Urgent Care Association was all about until you experience it. That's the challenge, because, you know, it's like anything else. If you don't direct the traffic, you're not going to know where to go. You go to the Urgent Care Association website, there's all these different things that you can go and do. And, you know, but there's a way for the Urgent Care Association. You guys meet a need where people are at all over the place.
Yeah,
I was going to say, I chuckled at, was it Med Trainer? I can't remember. And they were trying to set a broken bone? Like, you can get, you know, you can do this in your urgent care, and you don't have something talking about it. And it's so funny to me, because I think about, like, because that's the medical industry, but you look at a regular industry. Oh, you can also fix this on the house. You don't have to just walk away from it and send them somewhere else. Like, there's a value add that can happen. You don't have to just say, sorry, I can't touch this now. But it's just, it was funny. Like, oh, I guess you could set up, you know, it cracked me up just seeing that, because I was like, that makes total sense. There's this added, we talk about in other podcast episodes where you have opportunities, not upsells, not the right phrase.
It's a good one though.
But it's what it is. Like, you don't have to leave. We can do this too for you.
We can. Yes, exactly. No, let's just go ahead and shoot that x-ray or whatever it is. Yep. Yes. Right. Yeah. And I think that that was one of the things for clinicians that came into urgent care during the pandemic. we do a lot more. So I hope you didn't just sign up to swab, because that's, that's not the job. So there's a fair amount of re-education going on. I think of everybody kind of retooling their skills and re-upping of, we haven't done this in a long time, because that's just wasn't what came in the door. So,
well, it's a unique opportunity. And the reason I say that is because you had this kind of afterthought of urgent cares, and then you had COVID show the necessity of urgent cares.
Yeah.
And now you're in the new normal, which is the same thing as normal, and there's more competition, and you have to stand out as an urgent care. And that's all about that experience that you were talking about. Now, I want to shift gears on you real quick, because I got to tell you.
Let's do it.
If we're talking about experience, the Urgent Care Association event that was put on created an experience that was amazing to me. To me.
It was like, and
no basis of comparison. Quick story. I'm going to let you finish your thought.
I'll probably forget it.
No, you're going to get it. Write it down. Kung Pao chicken is one of my favorite Asian dishes.
Your favorite story?
Yeah, it is my favorite story. And I had it at PF Chang's for the first time. Okay. Are you a fan? Do y'all have PF Chang's in Washington?
We do.
Okay. So turns out the way they make it is different than, it's the only way it's made that way. Anywhere else you go, Kung Pao chicken is completely different.
So it's not at all what you were expecting.
No, the problem is I can only eat it there now.
Oh.
Right. So here's where I'm making the connection is I've never been to another Urgent Care Association event, or any other kind of event for that matter anyway, like an expo.
Yeah.
But you have like a bar, a coffee bar. They're bringing me crumpets and bagels. There's like little shots of excellence. I don't even know what it is. There's just the experience. They're coming around checking it. Hey, are you guys doing okay? I can't get Kung Pao chicken anywhere else. I don't know how I'm going to go to another association event.
I don't think you ever should.
That's just what I'm saying. Like, I don't even
stop
know.
It right there.
How? That's all I was getting at. You can ask your question, but that's the point I'm making right there.
It's a boatload of work.
Right.
Yeah.
I bet.
Right.
And
an understanding of our audience. I mean,
yes,
that's it.
That is
they live
true.
customer experience. We have to live that too. Part of it is that's just who we are. I mean, that's the people we hire, and we all, drink urgent care Kool-Aid every day. We sit around and think about these people all day, every day. And so that's our chance to take care of them. That's how we look at the convention. This is our one chance of the year to take care of them instead of them taking care of everybody else. And that goes for, all of the exhibitors as well.
Right.
So we really want to do a good job at that. I'm glad that you felt it.
Well, and that was, it was also your first opportunity to speak.
Correct.
And so we had to speak for 45 minutes, which we had 30, 40 people attend, and they had great questions. I felt bad for the one lady with her quality of care that she was experiencing. That was kind of funny. We're talking about Google reviews. She said, how do I get beyond a 2.1? I'm like, we're all like, well, you
better work.
You got to be better.
Yeah.
That was a tough from stage correction.
But yeah, that was funny.
Hey, better to hear it from you than continue to see it online.
Yeah,
right.
She got kind of
Somebody
quiet.
needs to say that.
She says, I've got over 2,000 reviews and I can't tell what I need to do to get above a 2. And I'm like, so this isn't going to be a marketing thing.
This isn't exactly. But so that kind of leads to this question. So when you talk about the customer experience, the quality of the care, the process, we talk about that a lot in our episodes. What is your ultimate viewpoint when it comes to a great experience that a patient should experience in an urgent care? From some, because we've talked to quite a few, and they're like, treating them so important and being fast.
Yeah.
And that's about as far as they go with it. And then for me recently, I had gone to a gastro doctor, and that experience was so much different than an urgent care, just simply from the standpoint of the little things. And like the little things matter. But from your viewpoint, like, what is the true experience that they should be focusing on, not just the care piece and how quickly I can get them out?
Yeah, what you're talking about is kind of that sweet spot that people are always trying to find, and it's different for every person. And so I think that's the really tricky part, is having that the most important person in the entire center is that person at the front desk.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And so that person's ability to kind of suss out every patient as they come in of, is this somebody who, and help, and, to the extent that they're able to tweak that to that person's visit and share it with their team. I mean, that's that customized experience. But I think what we really started talking about several years ago, as technology started getting into a better place and getting into urgent care is that that experience starts way before they get in the door. It starts with what happens when they call to check your hours or go to your website to check your hours or whatever. That whole experience needs to feel consistent. Obviously, it needs to be good, consistent. But as technology was coming into the space, it was, we would find that you buy this great technology that does this thing. It has to match your experience, when you get in the center, has to match whatever just happened to you to get there. So if you had a super smooth thing, but then your intake process is clunky or whatever, and then it's like, wait, am I in the right place? It's kind of like Nick and his Kung Pao chicken. Did I order that? It was super smooth, or vice versa.
I didn't order sesame chicken.
No, it was chicken soup. It turns into this anyway. Tell me
or vice versa. If the tech is clunky, they may be like, forget it, and not even get in the door. And you've been working so hard on patient experience internally, but you bought the wrong product or whatever, or you didn't do a good enough job integrating it into whatever happens. So, and then after the fact too, what happens when you go home? There used to be one of our things that we had in the very beginning with urgent care is 48-hour callbacks. We called you 48 hours after you left, personal phone call to do that. So technology has taken some of that, but that sort of opening and closing of the visit is, so much of that is outside the building. And yet it all has to feel like it's part of the same company, organization, philosophy, culture, all of that. And that takes a boatload of work.
It does.
Saying boatload of work a lot on this podcast.
But you're not wrong.
Yeah.
No,
that's the thing is like, here's the thing. It takes work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got to fail and adjust.
You're not going to accidentally be successful in the urgent care space anymore.
That is correct.
Here's the problem is that you could 3 years ago. You could be accidentally successful because you had a built-in audience.
Yeah. And no competition, maybe.
That's what I'm saying. It's like there was a place for Anyway,
and I think it's particularly hard because they're open all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, oh, we'll have a weekend in service for all the staff. You're open, and so it's really hard it takes a ton of, the second most important person in the center is probably that center manager, because they are the ones having to, keep that culture and those processes, and
they're the quality control behind it.
Yeah, and staff that don't work together every single day either, and so it's hard, which is why I think we get all the best people, honestly.
Right.
Yeah.
But if an urgent care would treat that front desk person, train them. I'll say train them as if they were at the Ritz-Carlton or Chick-fil-A. How about we just say Chick-fil-A? Yeah. What can I do for you? It's my pleasure. I'm happy you're here. I mean, I hate that you feel bad, but I'm happy you're here.
Like you're here because you don't feel good. Let's see if we can make you feel better right when you walk in.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then that center manager that you talked about, that's spreading out the accountability. Like, we're going to hold you accountable to the excellence that we require for our patients, right?
And we're going to train and support you also.
Train, support,
because that job is super hard.
Edify, right? All the things that come along with that. The expectation is this, but when you do this, we're going to reward you for it. Right?
And if a lot of this is culture that we know, culture building and team building that we know kind of from the business side of life. And if you're a business book reader and all of those kind of things, they teach you this in medical school. And so a lot of the, a lot of the industry is still having to learn, is still learning this relatively fresh.
Right.
We're that's on, our education is around that in some ways, but it's great. It's a really cool thing to watch as they start to get it figured out and dialed in. They're like, oh yeah, that really matters. Yeah, it absolutely does, and makes a huge difference, and it's totally worth the investment.
Oh yeah, I love it. Well, we're coming up to a close on our podcast, but there's some things that I want to do. One, I want you to take some time and I want you to talk about the Urgent Care Association. But here's the thing: before I do that, I want to tell you, it's not a commercial for the UCA from the standpoint of you're pitching it. It's this podcast and this team of marketers has now experienced it. And we see the impact that's positive that you're making on the community. We see the event that not only is just a good event, but it's first class. Like it's not a crappy, just put together, give me your money event. The investment yields a return and the excellent quality is there along with it. and we are genuinely appreciative of the work that you guys are doing. With that, how do people need to get involved in the UCA? Go.
Okay. Thank you for all of that, by the way. It's our pleasure.
Nick
Not to try
always
to be
throwing in that,
Chick-fil-A,
make it
but
a little more harder to think on your feet sometimes.
That's okay. That's all right. One of the other things that I think the industry is really growing into is activism, to be, to put it that way. Even if we're being activists for ourselves. There's so much that we struggle against as an industry that is controlled by others, regulatory, legislative, payer policies, all of those things. And so that's really where UCA is going to be focusing its efforts on a national level, is tripling down on, one, awareness and full understanding the capacity of urgent care to a set of stakeholders that we haven't really done a full court press on, let's say, all of those legislators and regulators, because we still go into either payer conversations or meetings with people in Washington, and they're like, now, those are the ones in the drugstore clinics, right? Which just makes me want to fall out of my chair and curl up in the corner. And so clearly we've still got some work to do on that. As marketing people, you can appreciate that. So that when we finally go and say, look, this is what our urgent cares are, unique and special, and we should be treated as such. You shouldn't just be lumping us in with regular doctor's offices. You've got to do some special things for us so that we can continue to do this for the country. Mm-hmm. And so that's really where UCA is going to be focusing. But so much of those regulations also are state-based. And so that's really where we're going to be working and want everybody to get involved. And actually, my column in the Journal of Urgent Care Medicine this coming month is on this very topic of get out there and get involved with the people who affect these things in your community, in your state, because it could be that that person is going to be sitting on the very committee that we need to say yes to the thing that we're asking them for at the federal level. And so urgent care really has to kind of stand up in a new way and advocate on our own behalf. We're not horn tooters naturally, but I think that it's, we're recognizing through COVID in particular, when we weren't part of the program, how did this happen? And we're like, well, we kind of been flying under the radar and doing our thing. And so that's really how we want to see people get involved. Yes, that indirectly is what we're doing and getting involved with UCA, but UCA is all about urgent care, not about UCA. And so that's really where we want people to engage, I guess, with us, is go and meet those people, invite them to your center, make sure that when we go and talk about urgent care, they're not going to think that we're talking about a retail clinic. And that really is on everybody in all 50 states to reach out and build those relationships now, because you can't build them when you need something. You need to build them now so that they're already there when you need something. And so that's really what we're hoping to inspire people to do this year. Yes, we're here to help you dial your operations back in and grow your clinical acumen and all of those things. But that's really where the industry needs to come together in a way that we've been talking about for a while, but haven't gotten good at yet. And we need to be.
And that sounds like a boatload of work.
Boatload of work.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's the work.
If anybody can pull it off, it sounds like you can.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Well, I have an excellent team, as you saw. So
yep.
I'm very, very proud of everything that they have accomplished and will continue to do so.
It's funny. I know how much work you put in because we were one of the last talks. And I'm not even going to mention her name because it doesn't matter. She was awesome, but she looked like a wilted flower.
Yeah, she was like,
don't talk to me. I hope you had a good time.
She's like, I'm done.
Leave me alone. she didn't say any of that.
She did it in a very nice way.
Yeah, you could just see it. And I looked at her and was like, are you okay? Like, are you good? She goes, it's
tired.
It's a lot.
She fell apart inside right there.
It's a lot. Yeah.
I know y'all put the work in. So here's the thing. We want people to be able to get in touch with you. Of course, we'll put links in the show notes, but where can they find out about you? And then where can they find out about the UCA? Where do you want them to go?
I want them to go to urgentcareassociation.org. That's where everything lives. And how to contact us is on there as well. I think my phone number and email are sitting right there. So we're all very, very accessible. We are here for them and for you all, our corporate support network of everyone out there who loves urgent care, from whether you're delivering it or serving it. So come and find us. We're here for you, and just operators are standing by, as they used to say.
A phone line has been secured.
There you go. And then the next big UCA event is in Vegas next year, April
13th through the 17th, I believe.
17th,
Yep.
Caesars Forum and everything.
Yep. Yeah, but it's going to be different. So
Okay.
we don't leave
I'm
well
a
enough
little
alone.
concerned about that. I want my Kung Pao chicken the way I first had it. Man. Don't mess it up.
Maybe the expo part will be good, like not too different.
I don't know how you're going to improve on the bathrooms. Those are the nicest bathrooms.
Aren't those the nicest
I'm like,
bathrooms?
what is happening?
It felt like an Instagram
Yeah.
post.
I feel like I'm in Rome. This is cool.
Yeah, it's a fantastic space. Anybody who didn't come should absolutely come. It's a great time, and you learn some stuff and meet some awesome people.
You do meet a lot of awesome people.
We made some great contacts that weren't even urgent cares. Like we just had such.
I mean, we
just attract that kind of person.
There you
Urgent
go.
care is awesome.
I think we had 40 urgent cares that wanted to talk to us, which was great. So
That's great.
even it's just
Yeah.
to help them,
just
in
to
any
help
way.
them or whatever, but it was just
Yeah.
cool to hear that conversation develop. So we enjoyed it.
Now you have
Yeah.
another podcast. Before we wrap up, you have another podcast that's all about urgent care leadership.
I do.
Real quick, tell us about that. How do they find that podcast?
Yeah, you can just go on to Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast. Or if you're a member and get our newsletter, we post every time we have a new episode. And we interview leaders in the urgent care space, regardless of whether they have a leader title or not, and talk about, we spend a lot of time talking about operations and clinical things, but we don't really dig into the deep parts of being a leader in urgent care and how challenging that is. Multi-site and constant change and regulations and all of the things that leaders have to deal with. So that's what we talk about. We also, there's a second one called Urgentology that you can Google under Urgentology, which is the clinical side of that, really talking to this kind of the, speaking to the provider, be it physician, PA, or nurse practitioner experience in urgent care. So, we can tuck links in there for both of those as
Absolutely.
well. Yeah. So thanks for asking.
Well, Llewellyn, we're proud to have you on the podcast today.
Oh, it's been my pleasure.
It's been fun. I've enjoyed talking with you, and we hope to have an opportunity in the near future to have you back on.
Love to. Thank you
Awesome.
both.
We love that. All right, guys. Well, thank y'all again for taking a listen, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks. See you next Wednesday.